Welcome to the Gimli Sports Podcast. We have Nick Batman Hughes. Mate, thank you.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I know you have your own podcast, The Bat Phone.
Yeah, Bat Phone's been going for quite some time now, and I just started it up for the same reasons that you're starting this up, just talk to people in the community.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, two Batman nerds, two grappling nerds. Well, you're probably more of a grappling nerd than I am, given your current level, which you're fresh off a win on Battleground in Perth, which congrats on that.
No, I appreciate it.
You went for a lot of leg locks, which is very much Nick Hughes style.
Well, no one knows what Nick Hughes style is, apparently. Yeah. Because all of the commentary team, who I know very well, they were talking about wrestling. I guess a lot of the tournament competitions that I've done, especially Pan Packs, have been based on wrestling and Top Game. And, when I had the match with Link for the title on Fusion, it was just basically me playing on top the entire time. That match was without heel hooks.
Yeah, right.
And that was likely a mistake on my behalf to agree to the match without heel hooks, because it kind of hamstrung me a little bit. I didn't think it would affect me that much, but it does affect sort of your decision-making in the moment. But at the same time, I don't necessarily think that being a pure wrestler, top game player, or being a pure guard player is that advantageous. Having the ability to move through both is generally a lot more advantageous, given you have some adaptability, and if you're preparing for a specific opponent, then you can draw upon sort of depth of skill to tackle that.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess for people who don't know, you've been pretty much all over the world, competed all over the world, all over Australia, IBJJF champion, Pan Pacific champion, No-Gi World's champion.
Well, I wish I was a No-Gi World's champion.
Oh, I thought you were a No-Gi's World champion. Oh, my word.
No, we're going to No-Gi Worlds this year, in December.
Nice. So, and that's in Vegas?
Yeah, that's in Vegas. Look, man, I started this whole thing when I was 12 years old, doing Muay Thai at 12 and then wrestling at 14, Jiu-Jitsu at 17. I fought MMA. I coached MMA for a very long time. And the last 2 years, stepping back into the competitive scene in grappling, that's really come about because of this place that we're in right now.
Absolutely.
If I'm going to lead athletes and people who trust me to lead them, I'm going to have to make sure that I'm doing things in the most honest way and try to get the most realistic depiction to them about what it takes to be successful in the modern era of grappling. So as you've seen, you've come in and watched me. Like, I study all day long. I have the online program where I'm trying to help people to be more specific with their training and give them daily objectives. But what happens within the walls of the MatLab Grappling Academy has been pretty drastically affected by, us getting out there and competing at high levels. This will be my 6th super fight this year.
Far out, 6.
Yeah, on M16 against Sean Ligurieric. And, I also did nationals. I did ADCC trials. And, we're going to Worlds. So if you're going to do Worlds at adult, not Masters, you have to qualify.
Yeah.
So the Sydney International last year, I was on the podium twice. And also, IBJJF Pan Pacifics, I managed to get the gold in the weight class at black belt at the adult level. So again, not Masters, which netted me a right amount of points to qualify to go to World Championships. And I just think that, as a black belt in this era, IBJJF World Championships actually isn't really the pinnacle of what you can achieve, to be blunt, to be honest. But it is something that I've had my sights set on since the beginning of last year. Yeah. So working towards it's been a really great process. But the greatest benefit from the process has been the information that I've been able to bring back to the academy, and the changes in the program, the changes in approach that we've been able to implement on the mats every single day. It's benefited everyone in the academy, and I'm very thankful to have the opportunity to do it.
For sure. So I do want to get into, so you mentioned you started your journey in martial arts at a young age of 12 years old, which I think a lot of people will be surprised. Like, you started off as a striker, which which I know for me, I'm like, Nick Hughes, that doesn't sound right, but
you actually learning me fight.
but I think a lot of people realize, and while doing my research, I was like, okay, you've got a professional MMA background, so I guess that really helped with starting at a young age with Muay Thai and wrestling. So did you grow up in like a family that was very much into sports? Like, what was that like?
No, not at all. I was a swimmer when I was a kid, and I swam at quite a high level.
Okay.
And, long story short, I'm short.
I know how that feels with my nickname being Gimli.
There's a shelf life on how well you can do, but I did swim at quite a competitive level. I swam at a state, national, and international level.
Oh, wow.
As a junior, and I just had a very smart coach at the time, and he had his sprinters cross training in martial arts, specifically boxing and kickboxing, because when you're that young, being able to do things like coordinate and have a really fast rating and turnover and have power in your upper body and lower body and just be, coordinated. That's difficult to come by. I'm talking, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
Sports like swimming and gymnastics and stuff like that, that takes place at a very junior level. A lot of development happens as a young kid. And lo and behold, I just became a better fighter than I was a swimmer. And then, there's sort of the rebellion that happens when you 12, 13 years old.
Always.
I wanted to start doing something that was a team sport as well. So I started playing rugby. And, if you were an athlete and had a couple of years of kickboxing under your belt, and then you start playing rugby and everyone thinks you're crazy, that's where I found wrestlers. And there was a wrestler there called Pavel Lugoski who really took me under his wing and showed me what the art of grappling was. And to be honest, man, I was a better grappler than I was a striker. But he was also very smart in the way, like some of his favorite fighters at the time were guys like Lyoto Machida and just guys who looked at the game very differently. So we started formulating plans and ideas about how to be a competitive mixed martial artist sort of very early on. And that was even before I had done any formal jiu-jitsu training. The first submission I ever learned was an inside heel hook. And that sort of speaks to the time period in which we were doing all of these things. This is sort of like before Ultimate Fighter and things like that. Right. So the career prospect of you becoming a mixed martial arts athlete is null and void. Like you're just a nutcase doing this stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like similar with, that's why I have a lot of respect for, the guys that we came up with, like Tony Caruso and the whole Caruso family. Like they were just guys acquiring skills diligently in martial arts without necessarily the design to become career fighters or prize fighters. But through the acquisition of those skills became good enough to do so. Yeah, and you got to respect that, man. You got to respect that. I went down a different route. With coaching, I realized I was a better MMA coach, and there was like a lack of leadership and guidance in that time period as well. But, there's a lot of guys who came before us, Kim Robinson, Brad Thompson, like just looking up to those guys and seeing what they could achieve and then trying to build on the platform that they set for us to better our processes and be a little bit more unified because you'd have to go everywhere. Yeah, you have to go to one place for striking, another place for wrestling. And even now, to be honest, even though there's a ton of really strong MMA clubs in the state of South Australia, the guys who do the best step out of the bubble of their own academy and they outsource. A really smart coach and an egoless coach will shop their fighter. They'll go, we want the best striking opportunities. We want the best wrestling opportunities. We want the best grappling opportunities. And we want the best MMA sparring partners because you're not really training to beat the guy down the road, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're training to beat the guy at the top of the heap. And the only way you're going to get there is with the help of the guy down the road. Yeah,
exactly. And I know, I think, like you speak to that with like your coaching experience, and I think it was the first time I ever had an interaction with you was when I fought Sean Edwards at Grappling Industries in I want to say March 2024, where I was just like, for those that don't know, he's fully blind, and I'm just like, I remember fighting him, and I'm like, this guy is like, how is this guy like fighting the way he is, being fully blind? And I remember hearing like some of your advice, and I'm like, this guy, absolute arsehole. Like, but I was
My
like,
apologies.
No, but it was like just hearing you coaching, like, and that's what I love about your coaching style is it's very applicable. You share your love with everyone. So, and I remember like we had a great chat afterwards. And then I think it wasn't long after that, I decided to come down to MatLab, have a few cheeky rolls, as I like to say. and that's where I think we both discovered, oh, we both love Batman.
Yeah.
Because you saw the Batman card, which is based on the animated series episode Almost Got Him, which I think there's a card game as well for it, but I'm just like, for poker, I'm like, I'm dumb as hell. I like brain cells. So I'm like...
Yeah, no, a lot of really good media got generated out of that specific episode. I have a framed print from that poker game at home from the animated series. It's really cool.
Yeah, so I guess, like, where did you start liking Batman?
Oh, man. Batman was like the first comic book and action figure like I ever got when I was a child. And I suppose I grew up with it, and I grew up in that 90s era of like animated series Batman and that kind of stuff. But I was a comic book collector from the start. And, you know, I gravitated towards the story. He's channeling tragedy into vision and drive. And even though he has a lot of intrinsic flaws, he has this moral compass that he's trying to adhere to. And it's not through being a metahuman or a superhuman that he's acquiring these skills. It's through determination and work ethic. And he built himself to be more than just a man. And very strategic as well. You know, he's looking to instill fear within criminals. It's also a very intellectual approach to being a quote-unquote superhero. So I really did like that, and I gravitated towards that as a young man. And then it's, you know, as I get older, it's the storytelling aspects. Like I do like the movies, I do like the animateds, but I like the comics. I'm still collecting single issue ongoing Batman comics to this day. I've never stopped.
I know
graphic novel industry for Batman, for me, that has been the one that's kept me in it the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. I know for me, I've got like this really good book on the animated series where it explains how they actually went designing like the cover for each episode, and just the way they were like this color palette, how we place Batman here, or like how we give him that aura. That I really enjoyed as well. I remember coming down to Open Mat once, and I think you posted it on social media. You were like, you know, your life's complete when people bring you boxes of Batman comics, because I'm like, because I'm not so much as a Batman collector. Sorry, I shouldn't be saying that. Batman comic collector. As you are. So I was like, hey, Nick, do you want them? And I messaged you on Facebook. You're like, man, how can I say no? And
you had some good stuff in there, man. You had like a shadow of the Bat run from the mid-90s that you can't really find anymore. So it's good stuff.
No, I'm very much like, for me, I like collecting just a lot of, not necessarily like the comics, but for me, it's like the pop vinyls, the Lego sets, just a lot of props from movies, or just little things like that. I know for me, like, I doubt it's actually licensed or actually Batman official, but I've got like a Batman Babushka doll, and I'm like, man, that's priceless. Because I'm like,
I used to have so much of that kind of stuff, and then I sort of like, I got some good advice from collectors, and they said anything that you're not displaying, consider selling or consider displaying. Like, invest in a better display, and you'll begin to find out what you really like and what you're invested in. And for me, it's always been, you know, the comic books themselves. And I've got a lot of like black and white statues and, you know, action figures. Like my Rogues Gallery shelf has every single Batman villain in action figure form. I've got a Joker shelf. I've got, you know, the Batman cabinet. But it's the stories, man. What's your favorite Batman story?
Oh my word. Didn't realise it was the Bat Phone podcast now. No, it's all right. It's all right. But, but I'm like, for me, I just love the favourite story. To me, it's like just how we actually got into Batman just through tragedy alone. Like, and
the origin story.
Yeah, the origin story. And I think for me, like, you know, with his mother and father passing away, well, not necessarily passing away, making it seem more lighthearted than it actually was. He got shot in an alley. Like, I don't know why. Rapidly. Yeah, it was.
It was a rapid decline for
real rapid. real rapid. But for me, it's like through tragedy and like trying to power through that. And I think, you know, to some people it may seem silly, but I know, but it's really simple. It's like, for me, like, I really had to, you know, overcome, like my dad passing away in 2017, middle of year 12, and just like trying to find something that I enjoyed. And that's, I slowly started to watch more martial arts, being more intentional with like, okay, this is what this person's doing. That's how they do it, like their mindset. And I remember, I think it was in the second half of 2021 where I actually decided to start training.